Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And at this time, I'd like to welcome and actually introduce Johnny Hernandez to my morning show. Good morning, Johnny.
Good morning, Robert. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you and to your listeners. Robert Rivas Radio. It's very appreciated.
Greatly appreciate this as well, Johnny. I got to tell you, amigo, I mean, dude, you definitely are a pioneer in La Onda Tejana, man. You have definitely taken care of business, and you keep busy, and you just keep on moving and grooving and taking care of business, Johnny. I mean, how have you been doing, amigo?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I live in Modesto, California, and my youngest son lives out here, and that's why I'm here. But I go to Texas and New Mexico and wherever they book me to go out there, I'll go out there and then I come back, you know. But right now I'm really enjoying my life because I don't travel as much as I used to, of course.
Let's go back to the beginning, amigo. Let's go back to the very, very beginning when Johnny Hernandez got started. Now, you were born and raised in Temple, Texas, ¿verdad?
That's right.
There we go. Now, what high school did you go to?
I didn't go to high school. I dropped out of junior high.
Is it, Johnny, I tell you something, man, that is really something, man, that, you didn't even go to high school. And I can only imagine the struggles and everything that you went through to get to where you're at today. I mean, just out of curiosity, Johnny, what made you say one day, you know what, screw high school, or should I say screw junior high school? You know what, man, I don't need school. I mean, what got you there, dude?
Well, let me first say that any listeners with, sons and daughters that are young and attending elementary or whatever, that was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life is dropping out, okay? So I advise everybody, get an education. You need it even more so than ever today. But the reason I dropped out, first of all, it was pretty common back then because we were all cotton pickers. We grew up in the Texas cotton fields. It was a workforce of the family that helped us survive. So we were doing a lot of that and always attending school. I'd go register way late and never catch up. But sadly, the main reason that I can say that I dropped out of high school was because as the conditions that I was faced with since grade 1 through the grade 9 when I was there at the junior high school was a very hardcore racism, Robert. And,
really?
Yes, incredible. Central Texas, KKK country and all of that. I grew up at fighting racism since the first day I was born, man. And I mean fighting it verbally and physically and, emotionally and, and that's why I abhor racism, and I would never be a racist because of that. But every day that I went to school, Hernan, and me being from the cotton fields and being from a poor family and wearing hand-me-downs and wearing shoes that had holes in the bottom, facing all the ridicule, facing all not only the kids that were racist because they were taught to be, but I had to actually fight with adults. Can you imagine a little boy having to put up with adults threatening you, and that was a normal day. So to me, going to school, Robert, was like a sentence. Every day of going to jail or the penitentiary, it was that bad for me, And then, of course, I didn't understand a word of Spanish, when I started school. So I mean, I couldn't understand nothing, and all the ridicule that I got from not all angles, but the majority of them, made me really hate going to school. So, and I never understood anything, and they didn't bother to teach me. They just passed me from one grade to another so they would look good. And during the ninth grade, I was fed up with all of that, and I dropped out, So they kind of saw you as a number, as a statistic, y nada más, ¿verdad? Exactly. Not only did they want to look good on their records that Johnny passed, that I did a good job and he passed, which was false because I didn't understand anything. But when the census came around, they would they would instruct me to put that I was Anglo-Saxon, not Hispanic or Chicano or whatever, because they didn't even have that, or African American. They instructed me to check the box, and that was to falsify the true readings of the Hispanic community and the numbers of, eligible voters,
That Johnny, that is unfortunate porque we have a lot of good schools and there's a lot of good people, but it's como si dice el dicho, it always takes a couple of bad apples to ruin it for certain people out there, and it sounds like that's what you were going through.
And I have tons of wonderful friends that I truly love that are Anglo, and we've used a lot through our bands and our career, and I love them. But the problem was that they didn't hide their feelings back then as much as they do now. Of course, racism still exists, and it's ever present, with today's situations, as the political and all of that. But back then, it was hardcore, and mostly, Robert, it was the city people, because we picked cotton everywhere, all over Texas and even in Oklahoma, But every farmer rancher that we worked for and stayed at the ranches, because I grew up in a little place between a big ranch, whether it's Neat Ranch, between Rosebud and Cameron, Texas, and where my parents, when they came from Mexico, separately, and they met there, they grew up in those ranches. And we'd go every season to pick cotton. We had our houses there that they provided us. And all these ranchers and farmers that we picked cotton for, Czechoslovakians and, Germans and all of that, were nothing but kind to us, They were wonderful people. But the city people were the ones that were real, racist.
Johnny,
but anyway,
let me ask you this.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, Johnny. Let me ask you this. You're going through all this racism. You're going through school problems. You've got all this going on. Amigo, how did you get into the music business? Where did this come into play in your life?
Well, that was a given blessing, because, first of all, I was born at home in Temple, Texas, in a predominantly black neighborhood, African Americans, and our families, a few of our families. So from day one when I was born, I was listening to big band, blues, standards, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, Joe Williams with Count Basie, and then B.B. King, Jimmy Reed, and on, Chuck Willis and all of that. So I was, listening to all this general market music, and at the same time I was listening to my father and his brother, who were troubadours, singing with their guitars at home and at parties and everywhere. They made a living that way in las fiestas and everything. So I literally started hearing Mexican and English music simultaneously as I grew up. But because my father was a singer and my hero and his uncle, my uncle brother, his brother, automatically I started learning their songs. I started singing la canción de José Alfredo Jiménez, Yo. That's the name of the song. When I was about 5 years old, my grandmother would summons me to come to her house and sing to her and all my uncles. And they would all surround me. I didn't realize that I was doing a live concert, and I was singing that song, and I didn't realize that it was professional because I get paid a penny Tootsie Roll that my grandfather would give me. So it was a given,
Now, Johnny, okay, comenzaste de niño, and you're doing stuff like this, and you're singing for Tootsie Rolls. Now, how did everything evolve between you, of course, Little Joe, La Familia? ¿Cómo entró todo esto, amigo?
Well, as I grew up and listened to Top 40 and learned the songs that I liked, and Little Joe and the Latin were already there. First, it was David Coronado, our cousin, who had the Latin, and when he split, Joe took over, and this was like 1957, and they were already playing songs that Isidro Lopez, the godfather of Tejano music, was recording, and I was, listening to those recordings and listening to Jimmy Clanton, Just a Dream, and that song got me to, I'd be sitting in with Little Joe and the Latiners, and then with bands that Abel Chavarria would come from Houston with his orchestra, and I'd sit in with him, and anybody else that came to Temple, they'd invite me to sit in because they heard me and heard that I was singing Just a Dream, and they'd ask me to to sit in. So I started sitting in on bandstand like that. And then in 1962, my brother Jesse, that used to play bass for us, who died in a car accident in 64, he drafted me into the band. As I was working in Fort Worth, I was already married, working in Fort Worth building bridges at the age of 17. And Jesse told me, stop what you're doing, you're in the band. And Jesse and I were real tight. We ran the streets together. We were only a year and a half apart or something, and it was the closest brother of mine. And we always hung out together and fought each other together, you know. But Jesse was the kind of force that you did not say no to. So when he said I was drafted into the band, and on top of that, he goes, you know what? You're married. I'm not. You're going to come back to Temple, and you're going to take my job. I already fixed it with my boss, so you'll have a job, and you're going to join the band. And that's how I got into the band, 1962.
Now, Johnny, you had a recording, a monster recording, La Canción por un Amor. Sold over 1.5 million records throughout the years, man. Talk to me about the song.
Yeah, that song has been a true blessing for me and my career and my life. You know, I recorded that the first time on Balmon Records out of Austin, when the Lanyards were just two horns, you know, alto and tenor, and the rhythm section. And it got airplay in Central Texas, and it became very popular. So then Joe decided that we were going to do the very first album that the Lanyards ever recorded, and we called it Por un Amor, the Purple Album, which people call it the Purple Album. And there we had a little larger band. I think it was three horns by then, and we did Por un Amor again. And that album, to this date, still sells, the original recording of the album Por un Amor. But what it did for us, for the Lanyards and for La Familia, not only did it get airplay in Texas, but it started getting airplay throughout the Southwest, Midwest, and all throughout the United States. And it took us, Little Joe and the Lanyards, out of Texas into all these different states. And then it took Little Joe and La Familia by then the same way. It helped the Lanyards and La Familia. It gave it its jump start. And I've been singing that song since day one that I recorded it, and I continue to sing it. I estimated that I've sang it over 5,000 times at least.
And I got to tell you, Johnny, man, you know, you want to hear a grito song in the middle of the night while you're drinking a cold one or whatever, Por un Amor is one of your grito songs. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. And, you know, Por un Amor, El Rebelde, have been great hits for me. And then a lot of boleros that I did, and a lot of stuff that Joe and I recorded about 50 albums together. And probably half of those I did as a single voice, like Díganle and Mil Veces.
That's right. That's right. Now, Johnny. That's right. Now, speaking of monster hits, you were lead vocals in La Canción that I say is going to live forever. It's Tejano's national anthem. It's Texas' national anthem. However you want to put it, Las Nubes. Talk to me about this song, dude.
Las Nubes, Robert, it was an awakening, an epiphany, you know, the best thing that ever happened to, I believe, to Little Joe and Johnny La Familia and to our industry and our culture. Because, for one thing, it was the first Tejano polka I ever recorded with the strings, you know, and not only were there live strings, but it was the Dallas Symphony, you know, and as you mentioned, I took the lead, Joe does the harmony, and it just became such a monster hit that when we were playing in Berkeley Greek Theater, Berkeley, California, we'd be playing to not only Tejanos that were in the crowd, but people from literally all over the world, Asians and Europeans and Mexicanos, and we'd open with the English music that I wrote, you know, because we were playing with groups like Santana, with Malo and Tower Power and Cal Jader,
wow.
You know, the Grateful Dead and people like that. So we'd open up with 2000 Space Odyssey by Diodato, and La Familia would play that, and then would come in with my song this time and some other songs that I wrote from the English album that we did. And then would introduce Las Nubes and the Tejano music, and they just went crazy for it. And those Tejanos would go out there and dance on the dirt at the Creek Theater there.
On the dirt,
yeah. And it was like a big theater, like the Romans, for the gladiators, like that. And you'd see, Chinese people and Anglos and everybody watching them, and those polkas come from, the Germany, and the Czechs and all of that. So they jumped on it, and they would play more Tejano music, of course. But that's the influence that Las Nubes had. Of course, Cesar Chavez, we're so proud that he had it in his car and playing it to all the farm workers out in the fields, and that brought us close relationships with Cesar and the farm workers. And we could identify with their struggle, and still do, because we're cotton pickers, and that's
Johnny,
the power of that recording.
Johnny, I mean, that song, dude, like I said, that song is, it doesn't matter what kind of generation you're on, time-wise, our generation, the generation before us, the generation after us, that song, amigo, is going to live forever, and people are always going to embrace it, not only for the lyrics, but the meaning itself of the song. It's just a simply awesome song, and for you to be a part of it, man.
The song, I wrote something on Facebook because they were saying a lot of things, and then I said, let me tell you what Las Nubes is to me. And I told them briefly what it means to me is it represents the human race, a man who's down and out, struggling in life, tried everything, and he just can't seem to it's getting harder and harder for him to survive. And God is watching him all the time. And he tells Las Nubes, go to the ocean, pick up some fresh water, bring it over, and refresh this man, not only physically but spiritually, that he can get his second wind and continue with his struggles. That's what Las Nubes means to me. It's very spiritual, and
yes.
It's an incredible song,
It's a monstrous song. It's something that people embrace. They embrace it. It goes into your heart, into your soul, and like I said, it's going to live forever. Now, Johnny, if we were to talk about all the albums you've been a part of, we'd be here forever and ever. So I got to showcase a couple of them. One thing that I'd love to bring up to you is y'all recorded a live album for Slits.
Yep.
That was
one of the most successful ones.
Talk to me about the recording, man. Who put this together?
Well, we were doing the promotional thing for with Slits, which was a national campaign, and Joe came up and with the idea of doing I don't know who else he was talking to, but he was doing it along with the Schlitz people, and that was decided. So we went to Corpus Christi and at the Coliseum there, and it was magic, Robert. And we, had a packed house, and when I listened to that album, I'm amazed, listening back at how well the sound came out being live, and then I'm really happy that we recognized a lot of people there during the recordings and during the live recording.
For the technology back in the day, salió bien limpiecito, ¿verdad?
That's what I'm saying. It's amazing how. Well, you know what? We had a very good sound equipment there, sound man, and they captured everything. And that's one of the most successful albums that we've done. And that says a lot, Yeah.
Unreal, Johnny. I tell you what, let's take a break in the action. I'm here with Johnny Hernandez, and let's go ahead and play one of the monster hits that Johnny Hernandez was part of, Las Nubes. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And I'm here with Johnny Hernandez and amigo, Las Nubes. Dude, this song always takes me back to my dad's little cantina here in the west side of San Antonio that he had. And I'm telling you, man, every other song, las nubes, y las nubes, y las pesetas entraban al jukebox, y las pesetas entraban, y las nubes, y las nubes. Amigo, I mean, this song, you can hear them at any bar across South Texas, across the world. Las nubes will live forever, Johnny.
You know, that's true, Robert, because that's talking about listening to it across Texas and the United States and wherever. You know, I do a lot of traveling, I do a lot of musicians, but everywhere I go, there's a band that knows all my material. And the first song they want to play is Las Nubes. And that's the power of that song again, man, you know.
It's just simply unreal. Now, let's move forward here a little bit, Johnny. So much has happened in your life, in your early life, and so much has happened already. And then somewhere along the lines, you and your brother Little Joe split up. What happened here, amigo?
Well, you know, I've been with Joe almost 25 years in 1985. And without getting into details, there were problems that were personal and business, you know. And I had already started to produce myself at the time. And it's a case of where you leave the nest, you know, as the saying goes. And it was time for me to move on. It was a very, you know, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. And that includes...
Tempones, ¿verdad, Johnny? You mean, you were with your brother for such a long time,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it's such a long time. It was a brother thing, family thing, and that's all I knew in my life, you know. And at some point in the future, I'm going to talk about some of the particulars, but I don't think it's appropriate to talk about that at this time. But it was time for me to leave. I had to leave, and that's when I formed my own band. But you know what, Robert? I'm not ashamed to say that when I left, I was so green. I didn't have a proper education. I knew nothing about business. It was like walking into a pit hole and an abyss. And one thing that I've never said is that just briefly that during all of my career, I knew all the promoters. They all saw me performing to hundreds of thousands of people and helping to bring in the crowds and everything. But to my surprise, Robert, when I left and started my own band, I would say that 80% of the promoters didn't work with me for whatever reasons, which can, you know, be talked about at a later date. But that made it extremely hard for me. So,
Johnny, you know, would it be fair to say that the breakup between you and, you know, I know you call him Joe, but I think we all know him as Little Joe. Right. Would it be fair to say that it was not a friendly breakup?
It's fair to say that, yes.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. You think it, Johnny. You know, it's nothing like it only happens to you and nobody else. In the music business, it's a very, very tough business, man. I mean, look,
yeah.
I mean, you know, examples, Emilio and Raulito, Joe and Jimmy. I'm missing some here that I can't even think of right now. I mean, business is business, and it's very, very tough. Not only Tejano, but in country acts, in top 40 acts. The business is a tough business.
And you know, Robert, and you're 100% right. And there's business, and there's business. You know,
right.
And at a certain point, things take a different direction, and so we came to that point, and I bowed out, you know, gracefully, and left. But I will talk about these things in the future, and that's what happened. So I you know, and let me just say this: a lot of people, I got feedback late through the years that some people were angry at me because they thought that how dare I split up the group, but it really wasn't up to me. I really had no choice in the matter. But I moved on, you know, and it's been tough even now for me to get a solid foot on ground, as they say, with all the endeavors that I've done and the recordings.
Okay, now, Johnny, let me ask you this question. I know that you're writing an autobiography about yourself, and that's right around the corner. But for right now, just for right now, Johnny, when did you pinpoint, when did you say, you know what, when did you say to yourself, algo está mal. Something's wrong here, man. We're not getting along the way we used to. Something isn't right here, man. When did this come about, Johnny?
Well, this came about in early 80s. And Joe and I had been doing some projects, and we had some differences of opinions about how things were going. But I didn't realize the outcome of my having differences with him. But what happened is, one night we were playing at the Torres Ballroom in Rosenberg, Texas, over there by Houston. And like I said before, we knew all our fans by first names and everything. And there was a family that was always with us traveling, and Mr. Joe and Carmen Gutierrez, who are now deceased. And they'd bring their little girls to the dances. Now they're all grown up, and they're dear friends of mine. But Mrs. Gutierrez, Carmen, pulled me aside during our performance, waved me over to the side of the bandstand, and said, "Johnny, what's happening? Why isn't Joe letting you sing?" And I said, Carmen, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But, because we always did a lot of duets together, and then I did single songs, and he did singles. And that night, he was limiting my performances to just a couple of harmonies with him and one or two.
Johnny, was this only for that night, or was it happening before and afterwards as well?
That was the night that it came to my attention. It had happened before, but that's the night that I realized, because I hadn't even realized it that much, But my fan noticed it and said, "Johnny, what's wrong? Why isn't Joe letting you sing?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know what's going on, Carmen." I said, "But I'm beginning to wonder what's happening." And that's when I realized that things were headed in a really bad direction. And
had y'all been fighting before, Johnny, or any kind of disagreements before, or did it just blindside you and said, well, why is this happening? Was there any kind of turmoil going on before?
I really don't want to get into that, except that what I said earlier, that we had some discrepancies about certain
I
things,
got you. Right.
But as and once this happened, then I was really more alert and aware that things were just not right, But I am writing my autobiography, as you mentioned. I'm almost through with the book, and I do go in depth with describing the process of things being good to things not good to things worse to things ending up the way they did. And I try to be diplomatic about it, Robert, because it's not about bashing anyone or saying bad things about my brother or anything. All I'm doing is trying to explain the process that took place.
What you want to do, Johnny, is you want to answer people's questions, right?
They've been asking me these questions forever. And I mentioned earlier something that really is stuck in my mind, and I'll repeat it again at this moment. One of the feedback that I got years later, is that some of my fans were blaming me for the breakup, and they told my friend, how dare Johnny break up the team? And they didn't know that it was the other way around. It wasn't I who broke up the team. But they didn't know, and they just assumed that I broke up the team. And things like that, that have people have asked through all this decades, and I never wanted to talk about it because they look up to us, and to some of them we are their quote unquote, idols or heroes. And I never wanted to talk about anything negative. But I am writing my life story. And by the way, this book is not just about my music career at all. It's really about my life from day one that I remember to the present. So it's not a book about Johnny Hernandez, the music career and all of that. No, it's about my life in its entirety up to now. And there's so much that I have to leave out so much because there's no way I could put everything exciting things that happened in my life, weird things and all that, but you have to condense it down. And in this case, it's not a situation to where the writer has to hype the story. In fact, I'm toning it down because I really don't want to talk about all the experiences I had, But that's the way it is. You know?
That's awesome, Johnny. And I tell you what, man, excitement is in the air, I promise you, about your book. And be sure and let us know as soon as you're close to finishing up the book, because there's going to be people in line waiting to buy your book.
I'm so honored that people are already saying that from when I posted that I was, you know, your interview and the reaction, you know, and that just encouraged me. I was sitting down even more frequently. Now I'm going to be sitting down to finish the book, and I feel that I can have it, the text, you know, all written out by the end of this year, and perhaps January, and then from there, the process of all the logistics that it takes to you know, release a book, which I know nothing about, but I'm going to find out.
There you go. That's simply awesome, Johnny, and we're definitely excited about the book.
Robert, I've been getting airplay for 53 years that I've been in the music, in my music career, and that I am grateful to you and to all the DJs. You know, booking the band was one thing, but the airplay never ceased, and that's amazing, and I'm very grateful for that.
You know, people think, Johnny, it's so simple. They see you up on stage singing, and they think, oh, man, that's awesome. I want to be that. But a lot of people fail to realize the behind the scenes, the business, the bookings, the getting the band members, putting gigs together, you know, the money that comes in. You know, it's a business. It's a business, amigo, ¿verdad?
Well, you know, Robert, I take it so seriously that in 53 years of performing, I only missed one gig, and I regret it. And that's because I was so sick with the flu. I got up and fell back down on the bed, and I couldn't go. But that's how serious I take my profession, my craft. You know, one gig that I didn't make in 53 years.
Wow. That you know, that attendance is unreal, Johnny. It really is. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that. Amigo, before we move forward, just a quick question, and then I want to move forward, but I got to ask you this question. Till this day, do you and Little Joe still communicate? Do y'all talk?
We did up until a few years ago, and then you know, Robert, I finally came to realize that even though I wasn't with Joe, every now and then he'd get me to do special concerts with him. You know, when he wanted to have super concerts and stuff, and I'd be a guest artist and all of that. But through my blind faith and family and loyalty, I finally realized about 4 years ago, that unless I broke the umbilical cord 100%, I could never stand on my own 2 feet, you know? So we broke off communication completely.
That's unfortunate. That really, really is, man. That really is unfortunate.
And you know what, Robert? You're the first interview that I've, you know, decided to even speak of this, because a lot of reasons, you know, and but I think, you know, you're asking me in a very professional manner and courteous manner, and I thought it was I should answer your questions, you know.
Johnny,
But,
let me put it to you this way, Johnny. I'm not here to. I'm never looking for dirt, for cheese, man.
Of course.
You know, what I'm asking you is probably what people would ask you as well, and they've asked you, and you know, us, all of us being fans of we can call them Little Joey La Familia, Johnny Hernandez, Rocky también. You know,
Right.
I mean, Johnny, this was something very, very special. I mean, very, very
And that's
special.
why I never spoke about it. It was too special and too personal, and I don't want the fans that you know, that really have been with us for 53 years or more, and you know, I don't want to make them feel bad about anything, you know, because they respect and you know, are loyal fans. But you know, like I said, in the near future, I am writing a lot of stuff down that someday I hope to release my life story, you know. And
Hopefully
you're the first one that I've told that to, you know.
Okay, hopefully, Johnny, hopefully one day, I want to move forward now. I don't want, you know, you don't need to say no more, but let me just say this and let's move on. Let me just say one thing here. Hopefully one day, God willing, you and your brother get back together, you know, and let's just put the music to the side, and hopefully you guys mend everything in a sense, and then maybe you can move forward and you know what, and treat us, bless us with the special music that you have provided to us throughout the years. Okay?
Well, thank you for saying that.
Okay, let's move forward now. Okay, now, Johnny, mira, now you're on your own. Okay, you're on your own. You're doing your own thing, and you're finding out, man, it's not as easy as it looks to be. But yet, hey, man, we all have to learn. It's all a process. So, what do? You come out with a monster hit, El Rancho Grande. Talk to me about this, dude.
Wow, that really was a super hit, and continues to be for me. That was the first album that I did, and it was produced by Bob Gallarza for Capitol Emmy Records. And it just, I understand that CD itself sold just under 50,000 units, or 50,000 units, and that was a good sell for the times, it's the late 80s, early 90s, and it sold a lot of units. But
sure.
That's how popular that and on that album I redid my earlier recording of Díganle, which was written by Isidro Lopez, and that's the second time I had recorded, and it was taken from the first arrangement and embellishing it, and that also continues to be a monster hit for me. But yeah, Rancho Grande was incredible.
That's right. I tell you what, speaking of incredible and your first massive hit, going on your own, let's go ahead and play it, El Rancho Grande. I'm here with Johnny Hernandez, Robert Rivas Radio. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more, and I'm back here with Johnny Hernandez. Wait, Johnny, I know it's morning, right now, it's la mañana, but this song, El Rancho Grande, makes me want to go to the cantina, drink a couple of beers, and ask a girl to dance and start partying, amigo. That's the kind of energy you put in the song.
There's never anything wrong with feeling like that, man. That's how we're supposed to feel every day,
See, Johnny, but if it's 9 o'clock in the morning, I take off and go party, I'm going to call you, Johnny. I'm dancing to your song, man.
Hey, there's no time limit for happiness, brother.
Anyways, what a monster hit for you, Johnny. And you know what? When I first heard that song and I heard Johnny Hernandez, and I go, wow, man, that's simply an awesome song. At that time, this is true. At that time, I was playing at this little cantina right when I was getting started in the music business called the Pretty Nice Saloon out there on Cincinnati by Woodland Lake. Y tocaba tu canción. Y todos, everybody would hit the dance floor y los gritos y todo eso, man. El Rancho Grande, dude, is a song that makes it, even if you don't know how to dance a polka, you're going to get up there and you're going to want to learn. You're going to want to learn how to dance.
That is the power of Tejano music. Exactly what you said. That's why I was saying when we were playing at these concerts at Berkeley Creek Theater, people that never heard Tejano music would play Las Nubes, and they get up and dance, even though they didn't know how. It's the power of our music,
No, Johnny, you have been on stage with many national acts. Check this out. Herb Reed and the Platters, Barbara Lynn, Archie Bell, Roy Hitt, Susan Anton, Rich Little, Santana, Tower of Power, Tierra, Malo, War, Paul Rodriguez, James Brown, Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, Britton Wood, Rosie and the Originals, Al Wilson, Los Tigres del Norte, Ramon Ayala, Jose Alfredo Jimenez, Luis Garza, Mongo Santa Maria, Willie Nelson, DJ Thomas, Barack Obama. We can go on and on, Johnny.
I would love that. I would love to be on stage with my president. Yes, sir.
Wow, dude. I mean, you're doing some damage out there, man. How blessed you are.
Well, I am very blessed. I really am blessed, Robert, and that's something that has been the source of me to be able to continue in.
You have also come out on PBS and CNN special, Latin Music USA. I mean, Johnny, you're definitely kicking ass out there, man. Congratulations to everything you're doing, amigo, and very well-deserved, don't you think?
Well, thank you very much. It's a lot of hard work, and the saying goes, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So, you want to be real lucky by working very hard. But it's a blessing, and like I said, I was singing when I was 4.5 years old in the cotton fields, and my dream even then as a little boy was to perform on stage. I didn't know how I was going to do it, and I didn't stop to try to figure out how. But, all these dreams unraveled through 53 years of traveling and all of that. So, yes, I am very, very blessed. And I
Johnny,
don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted.
Amigo, let me ask you a question. Do you ever get nervous when you hit the stage?
Well, of course, that minimizes with through the years, but not entirely. At first, when we start doing the bigger concerts, it's you get nervous, and but then we drink a little something, a little liquor, a little beer. And by the way, I don't drink. I'm 100% clean and sober for 19 years now. October the 10th was 19 years of 100% clean and sober. And I mention that because I still get nervous, and if you didn't, it would be a bad sign. You're not alive anymore. But when it was rough on me, when I starting out the first 10 years or whatever, you get real nervous. The way I confronted that was I would literally talk to myself and say, okay, you're nervous, right? You're scared, right? You understand that you're nervous and scared? Yes, I do. Okay, now go out there and do it anyway. And that's how I would get myself to be able to perform when I was really nervous. I would admit to it instead of trying to deny it, ¿entiendes? And say, okay, you realize that all of these feelings are going on and you're scared. Yes, I do realize it. All right, now go out there and do it anyway.
Johnny, I have DJ'd at many, many venues. Of course, T-Town was a big one, Tejano West. I've done many, many big venues. I've emceed many events as well. And I would get nervous sometimes, and I always remember, once I get up there and I say 4 or 5 words, I'm good to go.
You are 100% right, because you know what? The magic of music is, and this is true. We sung, both Joe and I, with toothaches and some kind of earache or something, and it hurts and everything. But once you start performing, for the time that you're performing, you forget about everything. Once you get off, oh yeah, I got a toothache. That's right. That's magical, man.
Isn't that something? Now, Johnny, let me ask you this question. I'm going to take you back here just a little bit before I move forward some more, but I've got to ask you this question. Once you and Little Joe parted ways, and then you went out on your own, and you did your first gig on your own without your brother.
Excellent question. That's an excellent question. Well, let me tell you. The biggest fear I had was emceeing, because I had never done it. I'd say a word or two, but Joe was always the one, talking to the people and addressing them and carrying on the dance and everything. And that was my biggest fear. And it was in Waco, Texas, at the Missions Hall, and it was my first band that I put together, Third Coast, and we rehearsed, and and I was a little nervous about the presentation and the performance and everything, which is normal. But my fear really was, how am I going to communicate with people and talk to them? I don't know how. And I came to the same conclusion. I said to myself, you know what? Just be yourself. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to be a genius up there and intelligent, and don't try to be anything. Just be yourself. Talk to the people, because we've always known the people on a one-on-one basis. Our crowds were always friends as well. So I said, just talk to your friends and say hello, and don't try to be anything. Just be yourself. And it worked.
Isn't that something? Now, Johnny, you have performed in some of the well-known venues here in the United States, like Austin Music Hall for South by Southwest, the Greek Theater in Berkeley, California, the Armadillo World Headquarters at Austin, Texas, Austin City Limits, Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles, the Houston Astrodome, Reliance Stadium, and the Fillmore West, the Indian casinos in New Mexico. We can go on and on, amigo. And fíjate, and you still get a little nervous.
Yes, that's part of being alive.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying, and that's good.
It's the case of, I heard a motorcycle rider tell me one time. He says, the minute you think you've got it under control and you take it for granted, the motorcycle, you have an accident. And I take that to heart. The minute you think, it's no big deal, whatever, you're going to make mistakes, on stage. So you have to always put your best foot forward, man.
Johnny, you have a brand new CD out. Talk to me about it.
Oh, man, this is called Paz Mundial. I wrote the title song Paz Mundial, which is about an awareness that I want to send out. And I know, briefly, it's about telling people that we must find a way to stop the madness of world wars and poverty, world poverty, that have been going on from the beginning of time and civilization. And to me, war is only for two reasons: power and money and greed. Those are the reasons that they happen. As they can find all kinds of justifications, but it boils down to power and money. And on the album cover of Paz Mundial, you'll see my headshot, and then I have superimposed a photo of World War I, World War II, Desert Storm, Vietnam, and right at the temple, next to my ear, the temple, on my temple, I have a photo of the World Trade Center burning. And the message is, we have to find a way to have peace in the world. In the world, I seriously don't believe that the human race was intended to be interacting the way it does. And you know what, Robert? There's enough to go around on planet Earth, on Mother Earth, as I like to call it. But because of the greed and the 2% that want to keep 80% of everything, that's why we have poverty. It's by design, in my opinion. And that's what the song is about,
I got you. Now, this CD, the CDs you've been putting out, they're on your own record label, ¿verdad?
Oh, yeah. It's called Stronghold Records.
There we go. And you manufacture, you produce, you finance, you do everything on your own.
I had to learn how to do everything, The one thing I wanted to mention about the song Paz Mundial, because I'm very proud of this, the third verse talks about praying for our soldiers that protect our nation, and to pray for our veterans and have consideration for them. And that's the third verse. And so I dedicated it to all our soldiers, men and women in service, and to all the veterans.
Johnny, that is unreal. That really is. And it's just what's even more unreal is that, man, you stay in the mix, amigo. You're out there, you put one CD out, then you put another CD out, and you're taking care of business, man. You really are, man. And the beauty
I took some time off. I took sabbatical for about 5-6 years, and I was talked into becoming a account executive and marketing consultant, and I knew nothing. I knew zero about, but because of the good friends and fans that are always there to support me and Joe, they talked me into becoming an account executive in New Mexico. And you know what, Robert? That was the education. That was my education in life. And once I left there, my last gig was with ABC affiliate Channel 7 and KOAT in Albuquerque, TV. And through all the years that I was in radio and then TV, Telemundo, and then Channel 7, ABC, that is where I got my proper education and learned how to promote and market myself.
Johnny, when I used to work for EMI Latin, I was promoted for EMI Latin, and people would ask me, yes, I was promoted for EMI Latin, and when people would ask me, Robert, what college did you go to? And I told them, you know what? My school was the cantinas, the bars, DJing, playing them, because there's no book in the world, there's no school in the world that's going to teach you what's inside the bars, in the cantinas, the responses, the reactions. There's not one book that's going to teach you that. Don't you think, Johnny?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I talk about that when we're saying, when I say that we come from the cotton fields, and traveling, because I dropped out of school and didn't know anything, through the travels that I did, con camaradas that they were pachucones, but they were educated, and they were fighting the cause for La Raza Unida and all of that. And they would set me aside and say, Johnny, you need to start reading. Read this, read that. And they encouraged me to read, and it was hard for me, but when I became an account executive in 95, for the first time that I became, they showed me a computer, and I said, what is that? This is a computer. I said, how do you turn it on? You see this button? You turn it on there. Literally. And then I learned everything through the course of 5-6 years. But this education came from friends and fans of mine, and that's the blessing that I've always had as well. And you know what? You can't, I tell people, the only people that understand me are cotton pickers. And I say, why? I said, because if you're a cotton picker, you know exactly who I am, what I went through, how I feel. And that's what you're saying about your learning,
Right, sure. And unless you've gone through it, you'll never really know, ¿verdad, Johnny?
You'll never know. That's right, man.
Johnny, before we close out the interview, any words to your fans, amigo?
Well, yes, first of all, thank you so much for all the support. Like I say, 53 years now. You've been wonderful. Again, thank you to radio for continuously playing my music since my very first recording. It has never stopped. Thank you to all the musicians that I've worked with. But mostly, I want to say to the young, up-and-coming musicians, artists, the biggest and the best advice I can give you is to never pick up alcohol, beverages, beer, drugs, cigarettes of any kind. That's the best advice I can give you. I've been clean and sober for 19 years, and you know what? I've enjoyed performing even more so than when I thought I was having a great time under the influence of this or that. So please, know that life itself is what is the high, and music is a super high. So you don't need, to take any kind of drugs, and that hurt not only your body, your spirit, and your pocket, and your family. So that's what I would like to say to all the young and up-and-coming artists and people in general,
Awesome, Johnny. Now, we're going to close out with your brand new single, Le Escribo al Amor. Talk to me about this single.
That's a song that, I just gotten done with my previous album, Aventurero, and I said, I'm done, I'm tired. There was a second album consecutively, years, and I said, that's it. And then I heard this song, and the other songs it's got some beautiful songs on this album, but I heard this song and I said, wow, while I'm still in motion and I haven't stopped, I'm just going to go ahead and go into another production and produce another CD, and it was because of Le Escribo al Amor. It's this song is beautiful like so many songs, Robert, but what I like about it is that it's general. It's speaking to the girl out there, not a girl, but all women, it speaks about things that I grew up at Los Campos, in Las Flores, and being out in the wilderness, and it speaks to who hasn't gone through heartbreaks, But what I like about the song is it says, and I salute my ex-girlfriend who left me, but I want to say hello to her, and I sing this beautiful song to you because life is beautiful, and that's why I love this song so much.
Johnny Hernandez, thank you for being part of Robert Rivas Radio Morning Show.
Thank you, Robert. It's been a real pleasure, brother.